Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. I'm Jolton Orwood. It was a nice weekend over our way, and after about 3/4 of an inch over Saturday night into Sunday, was even able to enjoy a little campfire last night. Though I was surprised at how hazy it was, in no small part due to that Canadian wildfire smoke. In fact, 2 years ago today, it jumped up one of my memories when that wildfire smoke haze was particularly bad across the Buckeye State. And I think back to how much that stunted crops. Not something we need this year. We need the heat units with the late planting. And let's check in on that ag weather forecast for the coming week. Thanks to Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Over to Ryan.
Lingering moisture here as we get started this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio ag weather update. We've got a frontal boundary still trying to exit Ohio today. Admittedly, it lost a little bit of its punch as it arrived in northwest Ohio last evening and overnight, but I think there's still plenty of moisture that can pop up over the east and southern parts of the state through this afternoon and into early evening. Draw a line from Cleveland to Cincinnati. That's going to be relatively easy. Actually, Cleveland to Dayton. And south and east of that line is where I think the best precipitation develops through the day today. Now, if you're in the north, that doesn't mean you can skate by free and clear. I do think that we have wraparound backside cloud cover and moisture that develops here late afternoon, evening, and overnight. That may allow for a spit or sprinkle that direction too. So just a damp feel to your Monday before all is said and done. Now, I do think we clear out nicely tomorrow, and for tomorrow through most of Saturday, we turn out partly to mostly sunny, very warm and dry. It's going to be humid, but I don't think we see additional precipitation. That changes overnight Saturday night into Sunday. We see scattered showers and thunderstorms coming up more from the southwest. We follow that up with a dry midweek next week, and then late in the week into the weekend of the 21st and 22nd, another round of a good strong shower and thunderstorm activity comes back. So on again, off again here. Timely rains is what I would call it if you have crop in the ground. If you're still trying to do a little bit in the field, probably not the best forecast for you here, but there will be significant drying in between waves of moisture. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thank you, Ryan. Well, word is that Bayer may be stepping away from the glyphosate business. Company executives this past week have told us that ongoing legal battles over Roundup could be pushing them to stop producing the widely used herbicide altogether. Bayer has already paid out billions in settlements and jury awards, and CEO Bill Anderson says U.S. law allows companies to follow federal labeling rules but still get sued for not doing enough to warn users. That legal uncertainty, paired with other concerns, has the company reconsidering its future with glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup and one of the most widely used weed killers in the world. Bayer has already pulled glyphosate from consumer lawn and garden products in the U.S. and now says continued lawsuits could affect its ability to supply farmers and commercial users as well. The first U.S. drought monitor of June has been released. Thankfully, none of Ohio showing up on the drought map. Of course, not a big surprise given the wet spring we've had. But my, what a change from late last summer. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey discusses some of the notable numbers and says from a national standpoint, shrinking drought coverage overall.
We have finally shed La Nina. That certainly is a contributing factor to the wetter conditions as we've lost that influence from the cooler water of the equatorial Pacific. Weather patterns returning to what you might term a little bit more normal and certainly wetter than what we had been experiencing in previous months. Looking back at the comparison to when we actually saw that drought peak last autumn, 54.1% of the country was in drought on October 29th, 2024. Since that point, we have wiped drought away from roughly 1/4 of the country. That current number that we see, the 29.6% in drought, is down 24.5 percentage points from that late autumn peak in 2024.
Again, USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey. Let's turn it over to our own Dale Minio as we check in with Ohio Corn and Wheat.
Joining me, Wendy Osborne, Director of Market Development for Ohio Corn and Wheat. Wendy, a pretty exciting time when we talk about the number of international guests coming to Ohio to talk about corn and wheat. Give us an update. What's happening and why is it happening here in Ohio?
Well, it's really going to be an exciting month for us here in June. We have a large delegation coming in from Vietnam, including 27 Vietnamese companies that are coming to buy ag products here in the United States and from Ohio, as well as 12 from their government officials, including the Minister of Agriculture is coming to Ohio. So really an exciting time. And then the following week, we're going to be hosting a U.S. wheat trade team with several South America countries coming to learn more about our wheat industry here in Ohio.
A couple of them are talking about signing a memorandum of understanding. Help us understand, what does that mean for future potential business?
Really an exciting time. The Vietnamese agricultural companies are coming to Iowa, Ohio, and then making their trip to Washington, D.C. to follow up their mission here to the United States. And they're going to be signing many memorandum of understanding agreements, both in Iowa, Ohio, and Washington, D.C., with U.S. agricultural companies. So they're looking to come in, make an agreement, and acknowledge that they're going to agree to make purchases of U.S. corn, soybeans, wheat, and also meat products here in the United States. Again, they're not formal contracts, but they're more of an agreement and acknowledgement they're going to make commitments to buy U.S. ag goods. Their goal is to sign $2 billion worth of MOUs, saying again that they're committing to buying $2 billion of U.S. ag products.
And thanks, Dale and Wendy. Some more about those MOU signings online at ohioagnet.com. Also there today, our own Brianna Smith checks in with Jason Workman, discussing their 7 generations of raising cattle and caring for the land at their Twin Oak Farms of Perrysville. That's over in Ashland County. Also, 10 tips for better spraying. 'Tis that time of year. Again, ohioagnet.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this with more news.
Soybeans are making waves in aquaculture. As a top protein source for fish farming, soy meal is essential for producing sustainable farm-raised fish. With fish farming as the fastest growing food sector, soybeans meet the demand for eco-friendly, nutritious options. From soybean fields to fish farms, soybeans power the farms that feed families. Brought to you by the Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
We check back in with our own Dale Menio. This time, an update with FBI Buildings. Dale.
Joining me from FBI Buildings is James Veras, and James is a crew manager for the company. Hey, James, can I back into a little bit of history and ask things like, how long has FBI Buildings been in business?
Yes, of course. Yeah, FBI's been in business since 1958. We've been serving local areas for 67 years. We've been growing since 1958. We're now in 9 states: Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, and we do some work in Tennessee as well. So we're continually growing and expanding into new territories.
Boy, for sometimes people get the idea, I'm going to build, I want to do it in this time frame, and then they found out there's not enough crews to make that happen. How would you describe FBI's building crews and how they work efficiently?
Yeah, so FBI, as we've been growing, we've been adding crews and we've been adding talent along with other good people to help. And having more crews helps us be flexible and make sure that we can build a building as fast as you guys want it. So our turnaround time is fairly quick from when you guys plan with your salesmen to finish when we end up signing the building off to you and you got a new building.
We don't want to forget the website, because you can look at lots of gorgeous buildings and all different scale and sizes, is fbibuildings.com. And James, when you look at crew size, what is a good crew size for a building? And are they all specialized to certain things they do in the building, or does that all change?
It can change. Usually you have a crew of 5 to 6. Now, if you get a bigger building, a commercial building or an ag building, because we do all sorts of build, ag, commercial, we even do some barn dominiums, and we even go up to some livestock structures too. So when you get into the bigger structures, we'll add crews to that so we can make sure we build this thing quick, efficiently, and on time so we can fit it into your schedule and give you what you need.
Thanks, Dale. Visiting with James Veras of FBI Buildings. More information at fbibuildings.com. It made headlines this week. 2 Chinese nationals facing federal charges in Michigan for allegedly attempting to smuggle an agricultural pathogen into the United States, a fungus linked to billions of dollars in crop losses worldwide. But what didn't make the headlines in most part is that this pathogen is not new to American soil. In fact, it's one that farmers across the Midwest already know all too well. Fusarium graminearum, better known as Gibberella ear rot in corn or Fusarium head blight or scab in wheat, is widespread and well established here in Ohio and beyond. While the court case raises eyebrows over potential biosecurity risks and more, local experts say it's a familiar enemy with familiar challenges. Let's take a look at this from an agronomy standpoint. Ohio State University plant pathologist Dr. Pierce Paul joins us now to break down what farmers should really know about the disease and how to best manage it in the field.
My work focused heavily on working with Fusarium graminearum, the same pathogen that made the news Well, this pathogen is all over the place. It's not exotic. It is in the U.S. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. And if you walk outside and you put a Petri plate up for 5 minutes, you're going to capture the pathogen on your Petri plate. So it's all over the place. And it does impact our crops, wheat and corn and barley, and even rice. And it does contaminate grain with mycotoxins, particularly vomitoxin. And that's the main focus of the research I've been doing for the better part of the last 20 years.
Dr. Paul says with the wet spring that we've had, there are some considerations to be thinking about.
Wheat is well past the flowering growth stage now in most parts of the state. And if there's any disease, it should start showing up now. It's probably too late to do anything to manage Fusarium head blight and vomitoxin in wheat. But in the case of corn, we're just getting planted. So you still want to monitor your crops and see what's happening. We're developing tools that farmers can use to predict the risk of grain being contaminated with mycotoxins. And hopefully during the season, we'll have those tools available to help inform farmers so that they can select fungicide to manage the disease and reduce mycotoxin contamination.
That's plant pathologist Dr. Pierce Paul of The Ohio State University, joining us to talk about Fusarium graminearum and more in light of recent headlines. And speaking of that, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas has officially introduced the Biothreat Prevention Act. It's new legislation that would ban federal funding to any lab or university conducting ag research involving nationals from China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, or North Korea. Again, it comes after 2 Chinese researchers charged with smuggling a fungus known to be a potential agroterrorism weapon into the United States. The bill designed to limit potential threats to U.S. ag by restricting 4 nationals from working on sensitive or federally funded agricultural research projects. Well, stay tuned to the Ohio AgNet. We'll talk markets coming up next.
Whether you're in the fields or on the farm, creating a safer work environment has never been easier. BWC's safety consulting services are included with your policy premiums and offer training and education for everyone in your farming operation. It's always the right time to make safety a priority. Visit bwc.ohio.gov or call 1-800-644-6292. The Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, here to help you work safely.
Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Ryan Martin checks in on what's driving markets.
Grain markets finishing last week mixed to mostly higher on some short covering. This week, the main storyline is going to be the WASDE report that comes out on the 12th. I am looking, though, farther ahead toward the end of the month. We've got the the actual plantings numbers, the seeded acres numbers that come out on June 30th. What's that going to say? We're hearing a lot of prevent plant talk. Does prevent plant actually happen in southern parts of Indiana, southern Ohio, in some of these areas where the corn planting deadline has come and gone already? So that's issue number 1. Tariffs are issue number 2. Trump and Xi talking last week. The talks boosted the markets, but so far nothing has come of that. The deadline for countries to submit their best to trade ideas to the U.S. for these reciprocal tariffs, that was last week as well. I'm looking for tariff and trade talk to really ramp up on the headline side here through this week. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thank you, Ryan. Let's check out the current market numbers hanging around in Chicago and how we're going to be starting the week. July corn checking in at $4.44 per bushel. That's up 1.5 cents at last check. December new crop corn down 1 1/4 to $4.48 overnight. July soybeans 2 3/4 cents higher to $10.60, and new crop beans up 1.5 cents to $10.38.5. July wheat 1 3/4 cents higher to $5.56.5, while September wheat is up 2 1/4 to $5.71. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Livestock starting the week on a really strong position. June live cattle $3.40 up at last check to $226.30. August live cattle gained $2 and a nickel to $218.88. We'll see how they can continue that momentum. Feeder cattle having some astounding prices. At September feeders $309.13 per hundredweight. That's an 83-cent gain. October feeder cattle $306.90 is their price. June lean hogs, $102.63, up $1.78. July hogs, $107 and a dime. That's a $2.30 gain. And a milk class 3 for July at $18.79. More farm news and markets online at ohioagnet.com. I'm Joel Norwood. This is the Ohio AgNet. Thanks for tuning in.